You're importing electricity in a country where 70% of our people are in the rural homes. He comes from Nyandarua. Every home, even the poor one, has a cow, right? So every home, even the poorest of the poor, could have biogas. If we are able to containerize biogas and put it in a container, like Sweden is doing today, it is cheaper to containerize biogas than to ship one ship of this butane that we buy. All the biogas that is being containerized in Sweden is driving municipal trucks and buses. Sahi gari zote za kanjo zingekuwa zinatumia biogas. All our Uber drivers and these other guys who are struggling, badala ya electricity na stima, would have been using biogas to run their things. It looks so idealistic, but it's true.
Hey there, and welcome to Fanya Mambo Africa here at the Alfa house. Always an exciting time, all the time. We have Fanya Mambo today with us. Online people have been asking where you disappeared to.
Nico, thank you for inviting me. Thank you, my online fans, for the love. We are here.
You're here.
Yes.
And today we are not just the two of us. We have someone else with us. Someone who served at the County Assembly of Nyandarua. These were the pioneers, the guys who started and set the pace for county assemblies.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe he will tell us why we see the mess we see today because they set the roots.
Yeah.
I'm speaking about none other than John Kieru from Nyandarua County. Karibu sana Mhesh.
Thank you very much.
How is Nyandarua?
Nyandarua is doing well. It's fine. We are blessed as always. We pride ourselves, as we always say, actually even by actions, to be the food basket. And as we speak, the rains are still raining. Now, this is a record 3 months. So we pride ourselves because we are actually providing good vegetables to this great county of Nairobi and Kiambu.
Waru.
Yeah,
Asanteni sana.
Yeah.
But in your administration, maybe the one thing you have missed is the roads in Nyandarua. Not you, but yeah, you're part of the system.
The roads remain pathetic, that's for sure. They have remained as such for quite some time. The pioneer county government, or rather our county government of 2013, tried, the second also tried, to date, because you realize that it is a county that actually, giving an example with the region that we come from, that is the central Kenya. The former provinces, for example, the central province of Kenya, the districts that were there, Nyandarua district is actually the one that was least developed. So when counties came on board, it also remained the same. So if Kiambu started at 10, we were starting maybe at 2 or even 3. So you realize that sequence still is the same today.
But Fanya Mambo, is that a fair argument 12 years later of devolution? Should we be listening to people or counties or even him because he's been an MCA there saying that they were left behind because of...
Sometimes you look at what Nyandarua may have received. I haven't taken time specifically to look at Nyandarua as a county. While he was there, they were appropriating budgets. They were approving governors' budgets. If you look at what most of our counties, and Nyandarua is no exception, have received from the national government to the county kitty, and what has happened in those counties, you wonder, kwani billionaire individual ni kubwa kuliko billionaire inaendanga kwa counties? Because first, very many of them don't even pay their suppliers, they don't pay their contractors. You look for something meaningful that 5, 10, 15 billion may have done within the time frame of a governor, and hauoni. So it's a sad reality that devolution sometimes looks like a devil illusion. It was supposed to have come, assisted our people, changed their lives, but to a great extent, we would have done better. We would have done more. And it's not just Nyandarua, it's across the... You look at counties like Turkana, and you look at some counties like the eastern, the upper eastern counties, and how we know that the bulk of their money is being seen in South Sea, in Eastleigh, in apartments around parts of Nairobi. I mean, your taxes and mine go to some governors who come and then buy big chunks of land in the city and just build apartments. It's a sad affair, but it is the truth. I was looking yesterday at Gladys Wanga facing the panel and the admission that there are 1,300 ghost workers in one of the counties that looked like it was doing very well. It has a very good record. So it tells you that counties across this country devolved corruption more than they devolved service delivery.
Okay, there is some truth in that. That I wouldn't argue. But hearing from John, who's been a member of the county assembly for 10 years, do you think then devolution was necessary? Because you've been there. Was it a good idea? Or did we give you power just to be corrupt enough, amass wealth as county assembly members, as governors, and anyone else serving there?
Well, maybe before I come to that question, which I agree with, whether devolution was necessary, yes, I would say it was necessary. But it depends. What is this that we were to devolve? That, or rather, is it how many years ago?
12.
12 years ago. So to me, some of the services were not yet ripe for devolution because the nature and the sensitivity of the services that to me have been devolved, I don't believe surely a county setup can actually handle that.
Which ones are those?
I'll go first, and everybody has talked about it, health. The kind and the architecture and the structures at the county level and the experience. So in as far as governance and leadership, policy framework, implementation of health services at the county is a problem. And I'll go back to the question of budget that has been brought up by my brother here. And I want to argue it like this. The law, that is the Finance Act of Kenya today, the PFMA, the Public Finance Management Act, requires, for example, a county, including the national government, but in this case we talk about a county, that 30% of a county government revenues, be they those from the exchequer and the local revenue collected, that 30% goes to development. That is the minimum you can give development.
Yes.
So 2013 to 2017, I served in the first government, and I can tell you for a fact that is the only government that delivered to the people of Nyandarua in as far as roads is concerned. In as far as the roads were not really permanent roads, they were maram roads, because we never did a budget that was less than 30%. The budget, the least we did was 32% of all revenues received.
Okay.
Unfortunately, when it came to 2017, the county government that was led by the then governor, Kimemia, never realized a budget of 30%. I remember very well when he was elected in 2017, August, he did a supplementary budget in December. And that is when I drifted from him and I never supported him again. He changed a budget of 34% development, brought it down to 18%. So what does that mean? It means the health services that are supposed to be financed in a development approach, the roads that are supposed to be financed in a development approach, have now been removed from a development voted to recurrent voted.
What was your responsibility as MCAs in that?
As an MCA, it is the responsibility of a county assembly not to approve a budget that is less than 30%
but they
development.
Approved.
But the county assembly approved. You know what happens at the counties, the corruption, the MCAs, relationships with the governor lie on the same bed. So you being an oversight entity and you agree with whatever the governor brings on the table. Because I was asking, how did the former governor Waithaka manage his office with about 51 million? Then a new governor comes, changes a budget from 51 million office of the governor to 405 million. Recurrent voted. I have never seen that. So that was a complete drift. And that money was now being removed from development to recurrent. That means you deny water services to people, you deny road services to people, and the question now of devolution, for example, in as far as health is concerned, the one I was saying, if, for example, you deny health sector, it's development resources,
Yeah.
people are going to suffer.
Fanya Mambo. This is a former MCA.
Yes.
Saying what happens in the county, and it's not new to us. So now what we do with MCAs, because they are responsible for this budgeting, they'll pass the motions and all these bills that are required, and then the citizens end up suffering. Like now, we have a crisis in the health sector, and it's a devolved function. Doctors are not being paid, there's not enough human resource. Then you hear the budgeting and your issues of South Sea apartments.
There was a provision in our Elections Act, Section 14, if I'm not wrong,
Yeah.
Provided that every elected member of the county assembly needs to be a degree holder. And I saw people coming and yelling and making noise and saying you're trying to make the county assemblies elitist. And I will say here, na kama kuna mtu atanichukia, we nichukie, I never signed up a contract to be loved by somebody for telling them the truth. When I was in primary school, I never did a sum that was anything more than 10 million. I am doing the same with my daughter when we do homework. Hakuna hesabu ya more than 10 million hapo for primary school. High school, we never did anything that went beyond a billion. It wasn't necessary. Now you're getting a member of the county assembly who is grade 4, I don't know, standard 7, I don't know, form 2, form 1. And you are sending them because they have a birth certificate. You ask them, what are your qualifications? They produce a birth certificate. You make the member of the county assembly. He goes to the county assembly, and for the first time he sees 7 and 9 zeros following 7. Then he asking, why do we have 9 zeros following a 7? What are they doing, all of them, behind 7? Yeah. That's the first time he's learning that a billion has got 9 zeros. It's the first time he's interacting with a billion. And that billion is not a mere number of zeros. It means taxpayers' money that they have worked day and night. The people of Nyandarua munabeba cabbage huku usiku na sukuma wiki. Munafika Marikiti saa 9 ya usiku. Nafikiri walitoka Nyandarua saa ngapi. And then they go ahead. Nyinyi wa Kenya muache upuzi. How do you work so hard? Munafika Marikiti at 3 a.m. And then now you go and look for the dumbest amongst you and you put them in charge of the billions that have been collected by these counties in terms of sales. Even if the governor was to remove 2 zeros, how would the MCA know the difference between 7 zeros after a number and 9 zeros after a number? He has never seen a billion in his life. So shame on everybody who is saying that an MCA should not be a degree holder. They must be graduates. You get to interact with figures at university of higher digits. Now, gets even better. The way the county assemblies are structured has borrowed a lot from Parliament. Yes. So that if you have a health committee, there is an MCA in charge of the health committee, right? The chairman. It's the chairman. Now, the chairman of the health committee in that county is Form 2.
Speaking matters head.
Yes. Now, he's in charge of health in a county that has doctors. You know, it takes 7 years to become a doctor. He's in charge of health in a county that has got nurses. He's in charge of health in a county that has got the whole medical, so this guy now is saying, mimi ndio chairman wa health. For a county so big, so many people, how will a Form 2 be able to understand, even if you give them one health facility, they cannot manage? For a long time here in Nairobi, the MCA who was the chairman in charge of urban planning is a Form 4. Now, urban planning is such a deep thing. The people who do urban planning as a degree do it like engineering or architecture. Mm-hmm. It's a 5-year degree, right?
For us in architecture, we did it as a unit.
Yes. So now, if they approve something at the county assembly that turns drainage into somebody's shop, how would he understand? So we have taken... Nairobi is a mess because first and foremost, you people who collect and work so hard and make money and your money is collected by sweat, blood and tears have chosen the dumbest amongst you to send to the county assembly. 2027 must be different. We must say that for sure, minimum ni degree. Na siyo degree karatasi because we've seen people who are buying and I know their process of buying. Ni degree mpaka tunaangalia who were your classmates. Who were your lecturers? When did you study? What was your time of study? Yes. Where is your graduation? Where are your graduation photos? That year you're saying you graduated. And then we even put you through an exam. We say, ulisema unasoma nini? Nilisomea, mi niko na degree ya architecture. We give you some simple exam ya architecture hata kama ni ya second year. And see if you can do it. So that we are serious about the kind of caliber of people that we send to the county assemblies. These are billions of shillings of taxpayers' money.
And we're losing them. Out of curiosity, before as you respond to him, how bad was it for your county? I know you are a master's holder. Of course, when you served, you probably had just your
I had my
degree.
undergraduate, yeah.
How bad was it for you being in a county assembly with the lowest was?
Even there were those that had never actually gone
to school.
Yeah, and
as an MCA.
Yes, in
Kenyans,
that time
bana.
I served in the County Assemblies Forum. The County Assemblies Forum is the body that now governs and takes care of all county assemblies in Kenya. So we had all a manner of MCAs. In Nyandarua, there was one, and actually who had never gone to school. And it is a fact. And the problem is this, and I don't know if you remember, my brother, Parliament, because you realize that legislatures, in this case, they are members of county assemblies, members of Parliament, and members of Parliament include senators and National Assembly members. And of course, by default, we call them women reps.
Yeah.
That group of people, they are called legislatures in Kenya. The requirement for them, the Finance Act provided that they must have had a qualification of a first degree. Then Parliament, in its own way, challenged that provision. I do not know how they were able to challenge that provision. Parliament, including National Assembly and Senate, challenged that provision in the court, and that provision was actually suspended. So it was supposed to have been implemented in the elections of 2017. And so they were able to suspend that provision. And so even in 2022, the requirement for education, because you realize only heads of governments are required to have a first degree. Heads of governments are a president, a deputy, a governor, a deputy. Only those ones. And of course, the others who are not politicians, that is the ministers and the county executive committee members. But others, MCAs, MPs in the National Assembly, the qualification of an MCA is the same qualification of a senator. So that is the correct position. They removed that provision in the law.
If I remember, the argument was on discrimination because the Constitution talks one cannot be discriminated.
That is how they argued it in court.
Yeah, if I remember.
That's a stupid argument. I was trying to follow that case, and I was enjoined much late when it had really advanced. But it's a case I intend to take back to court. For the simple reason that if you went to JKIA today, and you're flying to Mombasa, and someone came and said that to fly this aeroplane, you cannot discriminate us who have not got a training in flying. You're discriminating those people who have not gone to school. So allow me to fly this jet. What will happen? You crash. You kill people. You probably not even leave the runway. Utaanza kuuliza reflectors iko wapi, side mirror iko wapi, signal ni gani. That is what is happening in our county assemblies.
And even part of it of the National Assembly too.
No, even Senate.
Even Senate. There's one, Atasta mentioned. He killed English. If you think that what is happening in county assemblies is small, just take the image of a guy who's never been in a cockpit, taking a cockpit. And sitting there and he's telling you he's going to fly.
For fairness.
And that's exactly what is happening in counties. It's just that counties don't go into the air. Yeah. But what has happened is, instead of even growing, they have retarded. They have stagnated. They have not moved because a guy comes, like he says, he's illiterate. How will an illiterate guy read a health report saying we don't have paracetamol, we don't have, I don't know what we don't. He can't read.
Those problems are real.
Of health.
They are real.
When you find a person, and forgive me for calling him a fool, who can't read the oath of office, what else will they be able to do within that office? You can't read your oath of office.
They'll just be bribed
How
to
will you
comply with
discharge
governors.
the duties of, and that's why I'm telling Kenyans, mi sitaki kupendwa juu ya kuambia ukweli. Kama hii ndio itafanya mtu anichukie tu mapema. MCAs must be degree holders. The reasons they must be degree holders is because the amount, have you ever seen a bill before the National Assembly and it is written in legal language. It is not in simple. Musidanganywa ati mnatumanga MCA huko anaenda kukuta bill ya Kiswahili. Hakuna. It is in English and it is actually in legal language. It is very deep, it is very well seasoned, it is very well meant. So what do those guys usually do? Put the question. That's the only thing they know.
Let's just put the question, forget about it, go.
And remove, and that is hurting our country big time.
We have to go back to court. We have to make sure that in 2027, the requirement for degree is not discrimination. It is actually positive discrimination.
It is progressive.
It is progressive because why take your children to school so that they can be led by those who never went to school?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well understood. I hope Kenyans are taking this very serious because we have seen the repercussions of bad leadership or even uninformed leadership. You were to tell me, having served, was the county devolution necessary?
Devolution was necessary, save for some functions. And you look at Schedule 4 of the Constitution, you realize the devolved functions, and there is as to when some of the functions were to be devolved. And we have seen even the national government promising to devolve further functions to counties.
Yeah.
I would not really support that approach. It is actually progressive, but we are still very far behind. The question we have just discussed, the question on how educated are members of the county assembly, if you give us more services to take care of, yet we do not have proper capacity to be able to handle that what has already been devolved to us, is a problem. So to me, and a good example, I have actually given it. We talk about infrastructure, for example. In a county, they will call it transport, urban planning, roads, all those. Yeah. For example, they want that devolved in a county government. They want, or rather, health is also devolved in a county government. But going into details, what happens in a county government setup? The professionals in the county executive, it is not commensurate that the people oversighting them have lesser qualifications. So I still believe the big brother thing needs actually to be, even if health is devolved, even if some of these services are devolved. I was telling somebody, devolution is now, I think, either 59 years today in Japan, and they have never dared devolved health. Why has Japan never devolved health? It's now 59 years after devolution took place in Japan. So they realized, even from the word go, what it means to take care of health. The kind of shenanigans, the kind of corruption, the kind of things happening place at a county government setup. I was calling it, I was telling somebody the Kududo style. The way things are done in a county setup, how professionalism is trampled down, how bureaucracies are trampled down, just to have, for somebody, uneducated to have his way. So, and you expect such a person to take care of a mother going to deliver in a hospital, carrying a life. It does not. To me, we need a very serious watchdog, even if this thing has been devolved, a very serious somebody somewhere seeing what a county government is doing. So to me, it was good. It was meant because services went closer to the people. That is okay. But not all services were supposed to be devolved. Let the national government handle health the way it was handling before.
Okay. Kiundodo, for those that may not understand, means kimandazi mandazi. Like we're not even serious about it.
Not serious.
Mhesh has spoken about having an upper big brother watching.
Yes.
Do you think the Kenya's big brother, which is the national government, is doing enough to be able to watch what people at the county assembly are doing?
I don't even think the national government ought to be checking county governments if we voted common sense into our county governments. Tell me, those who are saying that having an MCA, having a degree is discriminatory, Tell me why then we wouldn't say that the county executives, that is the minister equivalent and the permanent secretary equivalent at the county, usually say they must be degree holders. Why? Then you have a guy with a half-page CV vetting a degree holder who has got a 7, 8, 9, 10-page CV. Because what usually happens is once they are appointed by the governor, they have to be vetted by the MCAs. Now, if your CV is 1 page or half a page, that's the best you've done as an MCA, and you're vetting someone who is a master's holder who is going to become the county CS for health or for infrastructure or for something, what nonsense is that? What questions will you ask him? And even if he answers you, how will you know if he's told you the truth? A guy who's got a master's, for example, Fanya IT, he has a master's in computer science, and he's been put there, maybe they have an ICT department or he's the ministry in charge of ICT in that county. And you throw a question as an MCA, and then he tells you to natumia MS-DOS. What will you answer? What will you say? So even that vetting doesn't make sense when you have a guy with a half-page CV, vetting Professor Magoha and asking him questions. So for me, I think 2027, it's not about the national government coming to oversight counties. It's about people saying that for the first time, we want the best. We want the best governor, we want the best MCAs, we want the best of the best that the county has in terms of even professionalism, so that we can start saying, so and so alitoka hapa akaenda Nairobi na alikuwa amesomea architecture. Let's make him our MCA, so that now we have an architect who is an MCA in charge of urban planning. Or we have a civil engineer who is an MCA in charge of, but as long as we are going to, and of course I'm not saying that education is enough, because people will start bringing that lame pedestrian argument that you're just saying learned people are good, and then you start giving me examples of learned people, including our president, who have messed us up. No, what I am saying is learned people with ethics, learned people with morals. So don't bring us a corrupt, learned person and say that the learned people have stolen from us. No. From amongst yourself, choose the learned people who have got good morals in addition to their education, and then let us give them positions of leadership. We have a PhD holder who is taking us to hell every day.
Okay.
There was that part before you drift from that, my sister. Mm-hmm. The nominations. The nominations of MPs, senators, and MCAs. The approach to that, the regulations that created those positions were to ensure that professionalism is actually taken care of. You have people who have different backgrounds in as far as education is concerned to bring that reach that they have within themselves. You are nominating a doctor, you're nominating an architect, you're nominating a teacher to come into the county assembly or to come into the Parliament of Kenya. Unfortunately, if you see the caliber of the nominated, some, not all of them, some of the nominated MPs and the nominated senators. So, and this is the question, and even MCAs, this is what actually I presented. I made a presentation in the Devolution Conference of Kirinyaga, and this was my argument, that for sure, you see, if you see how nomination takes place, once a party leader, in this case, a president, and for example, at the county level, maybe a certain party has won, and that is a majority party, you realize what happens is that a governor is allowed to pick some to actually make a decision on who is to be nominated in a county assembly. The same case with the president, for example, the national level. To me, I disagree with that. You realize that this person who is being nominated is expected to oversight you when you become governor or to oversight you when you become president. So objectivity there to me is lost.
Yeah.
And what happens is that this person will be loyal to you because you help them get the job they earn a salary from. So take a case of, for example, of Nyandarua, 2013 and 2017. Some MCAs who are nominated had never seen the door of a school. You have an opportunity here. Watch hata hii watu wanachagua because you can say people elected. And so people brought this person to this assembly.
Yeah.
You have an opportunity whereby you have a list of people who have applied, they have their CVs, and these people are qualified to hold the position or to make a decision and assist that county assembly, have a teacher in it, have a doctor in it, and have whatever professional is in it. But now, unaona wale, sorry to call it this way, wale wamama wanaongoza group ya wamama huko in the village, wale ambao walikuwa wana support sana wewe kama governor, unachukua, unamfanya akuwe nominated MCA. Seriously?
We have a problem.
Hawezi ongea hata kizungu kwa bunge? Can't. And then, when we had an opportunity, we have a long way to go, as you said, my brother. When you had an opportunity to make impact and bring a qualified person, bado unarudi nyuma, unarudisha wa Kenya nyuma.
Hey, Kenya, we need to do better. No. Mimi, unajua kule kwetu Embu, tuko na senator, lakini sijataja. I'm just saying that has been elected, that whose arguments are questionable all the time. I'm sorry to say. And I shouldn't even apologize because it is what it is. But moving on, because now I think we've managed to handle that of county assemblies, I want us to push this to the national government. We have President Ruto, who's been in power now 3 years. This September marks 3 years since he came in. I want us to look at the 3 years of service, the achievements and the failures. We can start with you.
There are no achievements. Let's start there.
According to you?
There are no achievements.
Nothing.
According to anybody and according to any standard, there is no achievement. Kenya has retrogressed. Let me tell you.
Why do you say so?
I want to start with the latest thing that was happening the other day. I was reading about the Vatican and the Pope. The Vatican is one of the richest outfits in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, governments envy the wealth of the Vatican. And anytime the Pope wants to travel anywhere in the world, they have an agreement with Air Italia. Italian airline moves the Pope to where he wants to go.
Yeah.
At normal rates. Worst case scenario is to hire one of their small aircraft, the whole of it, but it moves the Pope. We have a nation literally begging, a nation on its knees, a nation that cannot feed its people, a nation that cannot provide health care for the people, a nation that cannot pay teachers, a nation that is not able even to do capitation for schools properly. Children are being sent home to school. Their president wants to go and see a dam, having failed to build dams here in Kenya, and he hires a plane at 4 million an hour. And you saw that it was on the Standard newspaper all over the place. Now, their argument is that our aircraft that's supposed to carry the president is 35 years old. It was launched it's actually 30 years old. It was brought by Moi in 1995. I dare submit to you that Air Force One that brought Obama here was launched in 1990, 1991. That craft is 35 years old. The nation that makes Boeing 707, the nation that makes aircraft in this world, a superpower with a lot of money, is still riding a 35-year-old jet and carrying their most important person, who is their head of state. Na inamfikisha Kenya. A nation that is forever on its knees begging for donor funding for every other thing is now having conversations about buying a new presidential jet, is now leasing jets at 4 million per hour to take us to Ethiopia to see a dam. And we had an opportunity to build Aurora and Kimwarel. Those are the dams we should be looking at right now. So Kenya has, I mean, if I was to give you examples of where I think our head of state has failed and where this republic has failed, I can speak for 7 hours without pausing.
I do not want you to speak for 7 hours, and I do not even want to justify, but I think the invite to Ethiopia is actually justified. You don't take yourself to another country, you get an invite. So the president, when invited by Prime Minister Abiy, has to go. It's a national duty. You're the president. That's how I look at it. Number two, in terms of the jets, I don't dispute, especially on the hiring, the expenses. That's a bit of a different conversation. But I also believe we actually, genuinely from people in the aviation industry, we need a plane. A national plane for the president, not necessarily the current, but we need one. Comparing that to Obama's might be a bit different because you can have a Mercedes that was made in the year 1950, and you get a Toyota that was made in 2010. And
let me ask.
Oh, yes, and they cannot come. There's technicalities involved that I'm not an aviator, so I wouldn't argue that part. But I think there's that argument also.
Let us be
So
fair.
let's be fair to the president on that. Yes.
To the president. How many KQ jets were not flying on that day?
Now that's why I said
So
hiring
I'm
the
just
one
saying,
that is expensive,
common
that's a
sense
different
left us.
story.
Common sense left us. We are not a nation that can afford. Actually, I used to think I have a problem with the president. Now I've realized I don't. I've discovered the problem we have as a nation is that we can't afford Ruto. We need a president we can afford. We need a president whose shoes we can afford, whose belts we can afford, whose wristwatches, when we look at as a nation, we can afford. We need a president whose tours we can afford. I mean, was Samia Suluhu there? Why wasn't the other presidents from Africa invited?
We don't know if they were
The thing
invited.
is, no, it's because they are known. They don't have an appetite for
Djibouti's
tourism.
president was there.
They don't have an appetite for tourism. When you are looking to invite people to your country, you look for people who like being in the skies. That's why they were inviting.
I think you're just being
now.
known.
No, of what benefit? Let me tell you.
There's a lot of benefit, actually. If you look at
Yes.
it critically, there's benefits
How
that
does
will
Kenya benefit from that dam?
You know, we have a scarcity of power in Kenya
Why do we have good?
because we have not
Thank
done
you.
what
Why
is
do we have
proper.
a scarcity for power? Did we have a chance to build Arora and Kimorera?
Actually, we had,
Would
yes.
we have turned those into hydro-generating power plants? Would we have gotten some megawatts of electricity from them?
I'm not
And
sure
as we
of the
stand here as a
sizes.
nation, aren't we the same nation that is going all over the news here being told people are coming here willing to turn our garbage into energy and we are turning them off because we are demanding for bribes? So let me tell you, let us not give excuses for bad leadership. US presidents have 4-year terms and they deliver in 4-year terms because they are about to come here and start telling us he's only been there for 3 years.
Okay, John. Mahesh,
Thank you.
achievements for, or what you make for President Ruto in the 3 years he's been in power?
I like being objective.
Yes, please.
I'm quite liberal, and I like seeing things the way they are supposed to be. I'm not saying my brother is not seeing them that way. His opinion is justified from his argument as per him. But what I would want to say is that let us be objective. As a nation, let us be objective as Kenyans. Kenya is a great country. I have traveled this world, and especially because of the construction industry that I belong to. And I have interacted with quite a number of organizations that control a lot of money. And this is the construction industry. And therefore, when I make my opinion, I make it out of experience and out of what I have seen and how I have interacted with people. So 2022, when I left government, I was an MCA. I remember the salary of June of 2022, the salary of July, and the salary of August, the 8 days we were in office before the general election. Government didn't have money to pay us. Actually, government borrowed money to pay salaries. The government of President Uhuru. There was a huge problem, and there still is a huge problem in this country. That is the debt problem, and how the revenues of this country are being managed. There is a problem, and this problem has come from quite some time back. So what am I trying to say? Two wrongs may never make a right. That is for a fact.
Yes.
But I want us to look back and see where this country has come from. I do not want to go back to him, but I remember us complaining about our traveling president, that is by then President Uhuru Kenyatta, who they said was changing clothes in the aeroplane, and so is the current president.
He's doubled it, perhaps.
That is what they say. Nobody has given us that data.
Well, but, we see it.
You can see it, but you remember that time, the argument that was there.
Yes.
The economy is still growing. The travels that Moi did are not the travels that Kibaki did.
Yeah.
They, of course, went high. Not the travels that Uhuru did, they, of course, went high. Not the travels that Ruto is doing. The next president will actually probably have more travels. Because when the economy grows, when a country grows, you realize this thing, advancement of life, these things happen. When this country, and I want to say this, is that we have struggled with debt for quite some time.
True.
And the debt that this country suffered during Kibaki's time and now came to Uhuru's time is that this country, because the revenues are not enough, are not commensurate with the development being demanded by Kenyans. And so this country went into borrowing. And this borrowing has taken place for quite some time and is the same thing because we want to borrow. So my approach and what I saw the current president do when he came in office is that he wanted to generate more local revenue, deal with the debt, and suspend more borrowing, or rather borrow less, and ensure that they are able, or we are able, to actually repay whatever debts that we have. So this problem and this issue is actually a problem that is going to be with us for quite some time. Because I remember even that time there was COVID and the government is taking over. There were economic turmoils. And when the government was taking over the leadership, the current government was taking over the leadership, there were a myriad of problems. Mingi sana. And these problems, as a head of government, you have to lead from the front. And the economy was actually not doing well. So you deal with the dollar had misbehaved, you have to make sure that you work with it. There were a problem with unemployment, there were threats from the strikes, university lecturers, doctors, nurses. They have
actually issued another notice.
Exactly.
Just so you know.
All these problems have been there. The problem is that the Kenyans, the approach, and this is the Kenyan style, and this is how we do things, is that how we see things and how we want things done instantaneously. Me have been in government. How a government, it is sequential from this to that, and it takes a lot of time. But the problem is that we are condemning a government we put in place. I'm not saying condemning is bad, but we should allow the government of the day to do, of course, with checks and balances, to do its projects and its services to the people, and ensure that Parliament is putting them on check, which of course we have seen is a problem because mostly they do not do that, and ensure that the economy of this country is back on track. Because we have a debt problem, and this debt problem has to be handled. How do you handle a debt problem without revenues? And if you want development...
You tax people more?
To be honest, you want more development. For example, we want a Roland Kimorel. There's no money for that.
There was a budget for that, actually.
There was no. It was a loan that was actually to be approached in a PPP approach, which of course never kicked off. There was a problem.
But money?
There were money that was spent in the last government because of the cancelling of the tender, because you realize the law provides that if you approach that kind of a big project, there is an advance payment provided, and of course that we lost as a government. But if it is actually revisited, that can actually be handled appropriately. But the most unfortunate part is this. We want more development. For example, we want development in a county government. We want the national government to advance or to give more money to county governments. Yet the revenues are not growing.
John, I am waiting for you to land. I just asked about the president's performance and how you look at it. You've gone round with the debt, with the development, which I also understand because those are...
No, I was coming from him so that I can actually narrate to you, because some of these developments that we want a government to do, like for example, I mentioned, when this government took over, I know our shilling was struggling.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And the trading of our shilling was a problem at 162. My brother can tell you that these have actually changed to down to 129 as we speak today.
Yes.
And has actually stayed there. I believe, I don't know for how, it's now gonna be maybe 8 months or even a year.
It just added point something the other day.
Yeah.
I think a month now.
That is it. So this country has also allowed the democratic space of Kenyans. The president has allowed, or rather I like it the way Kenyans are actually able to express their views, are able to express their opinions, because that means that the democratic space allowed, as provided for by the Constitution, where Kenyans can speak their views. We are speaking our minds. My brother is speaking his mind. I'm speaking my mind. That democratic space, look at it in Tanzania. Look at it in Uganda. This does not happen.
That is true. Out of 10, you know him, he was outright. He said Ruto has not done anything positive. Can you name for me 5 things you think or you feel are wins for the president, in your opinion, and it is valid, actually?
Now, one thing is that we agree that compared with when the current government took office, you compare the cost of living. The cost of living at that time, you know that it was actually a problem and hectic for Kenyans to even do business today. My friend who operates an electronics gadget shop in town tells me that for sure this year he has seen a change in as far as his trading is concerned.
So business is...
That, for me, he told me, and actually he can attest to that. I saw the other day, in as far as education is concerned, this government has actually, truth be told, the aspect of hiring and employing of teachers. It is the government that has actually hired more teachers than any other government in the past. So far, I saw the ministry pride having employed 76,000 teachers in a record 3 years. So they want to hire 20,000 more this year. That takes it to close to 100,000 teachers. So that means our education is going to be boosted, and the ratio of the pupil students to the teacher is nearing meeting what is supposed to meet. When we talk about issues to do with the lending rates, you remember at that time when this government was taking over, it was about 13%. Today, the lending rate as provided by CBK has gone down to 8%. So from 13 to 8%, which of course CBK plus now other lending facilities are going to make it happen appropriately. So when you talk about the inflation at that time, which was actually 9.6 and has gone down to 3.8 as we speak, these are some of the important aspects that the government is trying, but they are macroeconomics. Yeah. These macroeconomics may not be felt today. Even Kibaki's economics were not felt in his first term. They were felt in his second term. My brother tells me about how America, a president develops, or rather a president implements his or her term in 4 years, but the Constitution provides in the US for a second term. America may have advanced and has development and infrastructure, and maybe its democracy is very old than our democracy.
Of course. Yes.
So here, for you to be able to lay down your policies and ensure that those policies are implemented is an issue. Because you framework after framework, you now go to implementation. So to me, that is an issue I would want to credit this government for.
Okay, you've actually done a good job defending or highlighting what the government has done, because a lot
in
of
an objective manner.
Yeah, it was objective. I'm not disputing.
Yes.
Why are you looking at me like,
because I'm
like it's
worried.
A problem? Why are you worried?
If we allow Kenyans to listen to this kind of people, then Kenya is heading in the wrong direction. In fact,
no, why? Everyone has a right to.
Yes, we shouldn't listen to things that are not taking us somewhere. Look, you're struggling with debt, and you keep telling us you're struggling with debt, and then in 3 years you borrow more than Uhuru borrowed in 5 years. How do you come and say you have a problem with debt? Debt is bad. You're struggling to repay debt, and then you borrow more.
How was the president supposed to pay the debt? Because we needed to pay the debt for sure.
You can't pay debt by borrowing debt. I'll tell you how you were supposed to pay the debt.
You know, even Uhuru gave us Eurobonds.
I'll tell you how you're supposed to pay the debt.
And it was to pay a debt also.
Now, the Auditor General comes and tells us that all revenues collected on SHA, it's on record, it's on all the newspapers, did not go to the consolidated fund.
True.
No arrests, no questions. Do you know how much money has not gone to the consolidated fund? Someone comes and tells you that 15 billion has disappeared from NTSA last night. Nobody is arrested. You're telling us about collecting more money. We are telling you you are stealing our money. So we are not speaking the same language. By the way, you see this thing you're calling capitation to secondary schools.
And primary.
Just go to secondary. All our secondary schools just need 10 billion. That's what they're giving as capitation. 4 million children, you do your maths, you see what they're getting. It's about 10 billion. E-citizen kumeibiwa, kwanza si citizen, just your party ya NTSA, kumeibiwa 15 billion one night. And we know who runs the system. And they are known because they also get that 50 bob that is, it's called the service fee. Nobody has been arrested, nothing happens, Kenya moves on. And then you tell us we need more money. We don't need more money, we need to arrest thieves. Now, the control, Okango, what's her name? She's in charge of, the Auditor General.
Yes.
Tells us.
Control budget.
Yes, no, the Auditor General. Yes.
Nancy.
Tells us that State House withdrew 3.6 billion in 42 days for travel. 3.6 billion in 42 days. If you do your maths, 3.6 billion divided by 42 days, State House is gobbling 85 million shillings a day. 3.6 billion because the standards of this government of empowerment is a boda. Hata kama wewe ni architect boda, wewe ni daktari boda, aulizangi umesomea nini, unadungwa tu boda ukajipange na uko mbele. If you are to take 3.6 billion and divide by 150,000, which is a brand new boda boxer, you would have 24,000 bodas. That money that William Ruto's State House is gobbling in 42 days for chai, mandazi, entertainment, and travel can be used to give us 24,000 bodas. You can imagine how the empowerment meetings would look like. They would look really beautiful. If you don't believe it, take 3.6, it is 3. And the good thing is we have an architect here. So for calculating 3.6 billion, hatutashinda tukimwambia ni zero ngapi. And thank you for going to school and for everybody else studying. So this is 24,000 bodas. Yeah?
Now, before you continue, I want to ask him, he was justifying the travel of the president for adding value to the country. When he mentioned these 3 points, it's not even him, it's what was given by the controller of budget as being used. Are we getting value for this 3.6 for State House as a country?
Days.
Yeah, that's 1 month and 12 days or 10 days depending on the month.
Whatever the amount of money it is
in billions, not whatever.
Which I'm not sure of. And
would you doubt the controller of budget?
Do you know why? I would want to provide or rather mention to you what I think is I don't know which section, article of the Constitution that provides for the roles and what the Auditor General does. What I will tell you, and maybe let me mention to the Kenyans today, an Auditor General will take the accounts of whatever entity it is. They will sit down and they will do a report.
Yes.
Using the expertise. That report is not final. We have had Parliament, we have had even county assemblies and even Senate trying to dig deep into whatever reports that come. So this report has provided 3.6 billion. So this 3.6 billion, according to them, they have indicated has been sent in the manner my brother talks about. It is a report that now requires to be considered and actually to be responded to, because the Auditor General, the way they do things is that they collect information. This information requires to be verified and requires an approval. So when this report goes to Parliament for consideration by Parliament, Parliament will now sit down the AG, sit down the responsible entity, if it is State House, or rather the head of public service, whoever it is, and then go details into details, and after all, come to tell us whether it was whether this money was spent the manner in which my brother is talking about, item by item. What happens is that
I have a question.
eventually when these reports are done...
I have a question on that.
Yes.
This parliament is mostly filled with MPs who are pro-government, right? The majority, not in a bad way, like we have minority and majority, right? Why do you think Parliament has not questioned those figures, if what your argument is? This is
the problem now. That is when we will. That is why. That is why they have not yet.
He's saying about the analysis.
They have not yet. That is why
this is what has been spent. So it was approved by Parliament for expenditure.
No, you see,
is what is spent. We are not talking of what was appropriated. We are talking of what was spent.
I know that there ought to be an analysis of the spending also. That I understand.
You see, this is what was spent according to a report by an auditor general.
Yes.
So this report requires a discussion, and it requires to be gone through by entities, that is Parliament, the AG, and the responsible entity.
Why haven't they said something about it too, if indeed the report has questions? Say Parliament, for instance. Because this is one of the figures.
A report has come. And you know what Kenyans like? Kenyans like discussing these kind of issues,
yes,
especially negative issues. When a man bites a dog, becomes an issue. But when a dog bites a man, is not an issue. So this issue whereby 3.6, it has actually been spent, that is the information that goes to the public. When this discussion is done and it is realized, oh, it was not 3.6 billion, it was actually maybe 600 million. Then this information now never goes to the public.
Why?
Because Kenyans like negative information being spread.
Who's supposed to get that report?
It is Parliament.
So,
it is Parliament.
When parliamentarians fail, then how is it that Kenyans have a problem?
Let me say something, my brother, and I'm sorry if I will drift. The Kenyan system of governance has drifted from the old parliamentary system. The parliamentary system is whereby government and legislature shared the same platform. They were together. We had the president. For you to be president, you qualified as president having been elected as an MP. So you have to be elected MP first for you to become a president. For you to become minister, you had to be an MP first. Yeah. So executive was actually in Parliament. Today, it is different. And now why I'm saying this is that I want to justify your argument, but there is a problem somewhere. But I saw some difference the other day. Today, none of Kenyan Parliament is supposed to represent any government in Parliament. There is no government representative in Parliament today. Even Ishongwa, you see him defending the government on the floor of the House. The Constitution does not provide him to defend government on the floor of the House. You see Aaron Cheruiyot defending government on the floor of the House. His responsibility is not to defend the position of the government on the floor of the House. Neither is it the responsibility of any legislature to provide or rather to support. What is there is this. Today, for example, if a document comes from executive today, it lands in the office of the clerk of the National Assembly or the Senate. Once it lands there is a discussion between the office of the clerk and the office of the speaker. From the office of the speaker, it needs to find its way on the floor of the House.
Yes.
So that's why there is a nexus on an office called the office of the majority leader or the office of the minority leader. Those two offices are supposed now, because they are elected representatives, present those reports on the floor of the House. That is their role. Their role is transactional. Chukua from the office of the clerk, ekele on the floor on the table. What I believe is this. When a majority leader is tabling a document of government on the floor of the House, he is playing the roles of a majority leader. After tabling that document, tomorrow, he will now then come discuss that document, not as a majority leader. He's supposed to discuss that document as an MP of Kikuyu.
Supposed to.
No. As an MP of Kikuyu. Yes. He is supposed either to support if it is a good document or oppose it if it is not. The other day I saw Aaron Cheruiyot. You remember the impeachment of the governor for Kericho. The motion that was supposed to be discussed first, according to Senate, was whether County Assembly of Kericho reached the numbers appropriate by law to impeach a governor. Before going to the question of if the governor misappropriated funds, we first of all ask the Senate to answer if the County Assembly met the numbers. The motion had to be done by an office of the majority leader or the office of the minority leader. The office of the majority leader did the motion. In as far as Cheruiyot did not believe with it, he is the majority leader, it has to be laid on the table of the House. So when the time for discussing that motion came, what did he do? He opposed the motion. Why? Because at that particular time, he is speaking as a senator, not as a majority leader. He tabled as a majority leader, but is now discussing as a senator for Kericho. So the problem now is here, where I was talking about the executive reports, and the only guy, I like him, the Pick Park chairman,
Moses.
Is Moses.
Kajwang, yeah.
Moses Kajwang. This guy is quite objective. He will take us down through these figures, word for word for word for word, and finally realize, because many Kenyans don't know that a figure of 3.6 has been spent by State House on travel. Kenyans believe that. But when Kajwang sits down with the entities responsible, they start, or rather they go into these details. Finally, when they realize the amount of money that was spent in agreement of the Senate, or rather Parliament, in agreement of the Auditor General, and in agreement with the entity that spent the money, they never come back to tell us what was spent.
We shall be watching.
I think
we are actually watching to see that report. I will be happy and call you back when it comes.
Because it is true.
No, I'll call you back.
Let me ask him a question. For example, what is the relevance or what is the need of a parliament discussing the 3.6 billion if it is plain gospel according to the Auditor General?
I'll only answer you in one way, and this is the language Kenyans want to hear.
Yes.
We've heard of salary delays for teachers, for doctors, no increments, and so on and so forth. Ile siku tutaamini Kenya hakuna pesa, ni ile siku tutasikia kuna salary delay ya MPs na salary delay ya president. And the president has not been paid this month because there is no money. This other thing is nonsense. Until the day Kenyans will hear Ruto hajalipwa mshahara, ndege ya Ruto haina mafuta na haiwezi kwenda Ethiopia, that's the day we shall say Kenya is broke.
Do you have friends in the national government?
Listen, for as long as our president is flying in the air all over this world, Kenya has money. The day we shall discover why do we have money to fly him whenever he wants to go, but we do not have money to pay our doctors, for example.
You know how a procurement process operates.
We don't care about procurement. That procurement office that makes sure the president is able to fly should make sure the doctor has been paid. That procurement office that makes sure we see the president with a red sole shoe should make sure that the teachers have been paid in good time. That procurement service that makes sure that we see people like Kakinambadi having lunch at Serena and all those other expensive, that procurement process must work for every Kenyans. Listen, he's had a lot of time. Let me explain to you something.
Okay.
He was trying to sell to us things that don't work, telling us things about dams. My friend, you're an architect. The problem with us is we have allowed ourselves to think like every other commoner out there. Now let us think differently. What if we changed Kenya's building code and said that for us to approve any building from now on, it must be shown to have capacity to store a certain number of liters of water? He's well aware that the amount of rain you get in a 3-month period on your roof is enough to last you for 1 year. So we get those for enough times. Before Kenya moves into this madness of saying we can sink dams and build dams and be benchmarked on our capacity to build dams, it is actually possible to come up with a national policy on the storage of water. And it doesn't take a lot. It just says we are not going to approve a house that doesn't have in its building plan or its building code a storage capacity of X number of liters, so that if it's an apartment, it is this number of liters. If it is a 1-bedroom house, and so on and so forth. So that is easy. It can be done. It should happen. Yeah. When you talk of power, same thing. India right now is moving away from hydro to solar. In fact, they are removing most of their hydro to solar. Kenya is on the equator. We are lucky we have a lot of sunlight. Yeah. Then the $1 million question becomes again, why are we going the stupid way of saying that tunaenda kuona power production in Ethiopia juu hatuna power? No, we are on the equator. The question should have been, again, go back to the building code, that for us to approve a building, it needs to have a provision so that, because kama mtu anaweza jenga nyumba ya 5 million, they can add 200,000 for solar, so that power becomes a backup, not the main thing. So again, I say the people who are in those spaces have failed us. Government should have come up with a policy that does not necessarily mean as borrowing money. Munaenda kukopa pesa ya kujenga dam and you are sitting on the equator. Shame on you. Hamuna akili. You have a lot of sunlight here. Munaenda kukopa pesa ya kujenga electricity. The sun is burning you mpaka munajificha sasa huwezi toka nje. So let us not have those conversations. We didn't elect common sense into leadership. Now, hamuna pesa na mnajenga church state house ya 1.2 billion. Nani aliwaambia tunataka kanisa state house? By the way, we hire you, are a tenant. Have you ever seen a hostile tenant? You know when you go to state house, you're a tenant. For the 5 years.
By the way, who told you it is 1.2 billion?
Let me tell you.
That is the work of investigative journalists. Yes, they got the figures.
We are consumers of whatever.
No, wait. What's the figure?
I am an architect, and I will tell you what 1.2 billion can do.
It can do Talanta Stadium, but sasa tunafanya na 45.
What I saw,
Kenya Kwanza.
What I saw, and it's always good to be. I told you that those ballooning figures always sell, and Kenyans like that.
But you know, in Kenya, why that figure sells is because we have budgeted corruption. If we're being honest.
I talked to
So who
a
needs the
guy.
church?
I talked to a guy. It has been there.
Who said we want it? Was it in his manifesto when he was campaigning? Did you hear Ruto promising he's going to build a church at State House?
It was.
Ile mambo anafanya sisi hatukukubaliana na yeye.
You remember the budget?
Hajafanya.
The budget of 2023-2024. That is where that project was.
For the church?
It was approved by the National Assembly.
Parliament sat down to approve it.
It is approved.
Parliament sat down to approve
It was approved, yeah. So,
That's
and was approved
no,
at
wait.
400 million.
I have a question though.
400 million.
Yes.
Yes.
And that is the figure the project costs. But now the project has been said to spend 1.2 billion.
Okay.
Why?
That's what.
Wait a minute.
That is journalism you're talking about.
Now,
the investigative journalism.
For a church. 400 million for a church at State House. That already for us is terrible. Because when you send you to State House, you're a tenant. You don't become a tenant and then you start changing the roof of the house without asking the landlord. You don't become a tenant and then you start building other structures in my compound without our approval.
The most unfortunate thing, bro, and I want to say this, is that Kenyans will like complaining thereafter. These details were in the budget of 2023-2024. And if you go and download the budget policy as approved by the National Assembly of 2023 and 2024 and get the itemized budget of the national government, and that is the office of the president, you will see all those details there, including the renovations.
So we did not treat as Kenyans. That's number one.
The renovations at the office of the deputy president. What did you say?
I'm saying we did not read. That's ignorance on our part.
Because this subject was actually subjected to public participation.
My big question is, you want to tell me MPs sat down to discuss that we need a church in State House?
Yes, and it was approved.
And then when this story came out, they came out to speak out here saying that they are shocked.
You see, when these meetings are called, unfortunately Kenyans do not attend. I served in a county government because unfortunately our people are different. You call people for public participation, they will not come. They will want you to have give them money for them to come. And that was quite unfortunate because to look at public participation, in a hall, you expect 200 people, you find you have less than 20 people. And you expect to have objective feedback, it can never be objective. So that is how, unfortunately, we have let this country, or we have allowed National Assembly, when they do the so-called public participation, people don't attend. People don't actually go. This time around, the budget for this year, the one we were operating this year, fortunately, this time around they tried to devolve it to constituency levels.
Yes.
Budget, you can imagine, they used to do at KICC. Now they removed it from KICC, one public participation, and did it to the 290 constituencies. So when they came to Oljororok, the people who attended for public participation of the national government, Oljororok constituency, believe you me, the people that were in attendance were not even more than 30. And you expect that objectivity and honesty is actually realized.
I'll tell you why they don't.
This is the problem of we Kenyans. This information was there in the public. This information was shared. That, for example, that budget had issues that required to be approved by the National Assembly. What is your opinion?
I'll tell you why Kenyans don't attend.
Yes.
Sisi tuli attend public participation ya finance bill. Wote kwa streets. And we were telling Parliament, no.
After
they had not passed.
After public participation was done.
I sat in public participation forums in Dagoretti South. And they were coming with obnoxious things because we listened. Zilikuwa Dagoretti South. I even have photos and videos of me participating. And we told them, listen, hii ujinga mnaleta ya kuongeza mkate na pampa haitaenda vizuri uko mbele. They have been doing public participation as a rubber stamp. Because eventually they still passed what they wanted to pass. Yeah. The reason we are fighting this administration is got nothing to do with whether they've done public participation or not. It is the fact that you can even sit and conceive the stupid idea that you'll have a church in State House and put it in a budget and bring it to us makes us even angry at you. You have a brain that we don't need.
What is the church has been there? What is the problem?
The fact that you can sit and Parliament allocates 12 billion to State House, a State House that used to get 4 billion in the petition budget. Alafu 3 billion for free primary school feeding program, so that 10 million children in primary schools are given 3 billion for feeding, and then State House, a loss-making institution, it only makes loss for the country, is given 12 billion. The fact that you can bring us that budget and we look at you and we think you're not normal, that you can present such a budget to us. 12 billion for a loss-making outfit called State House, and 3 billion for all our 10 million children for school feeding. It is there, check, this budget here, this year.
Mahesh,
So now,
let me
we are
ask.
having is not public participation. The problem we are having
It is also
that
a problem
the
too.
person carrying this paper is sick. They need hospitalization. They need an injection to tell them common sense. Hospitals don't have gloves. And you have gone and in your budget, the first thing you're telling us to come and have public participation about is a church at State House. Let me tell you one thing you told us. 76,000 teachers.
Yes.
There used to be a president in this country called Moi that I wish we can forget, who used to come and tell us, oh, alipochukua hatamu za uongozi, Kenya ilikuwa na university moja, sasa iko na 5. 5 universities in 24 years is a terrible outcome. Because under Kibaki, the universities moved to over 20 in 10 years.
Yeah. In 10 years, yeah.
So now we have a guy who wants to conveniently tell us they've hired 76,000 teachers without tying that to the equivalent increase in the number of children in schools. I have a child in a public national school, and they have a teacher shortage. And this teacher shortage did not come yesterday. So telling us we've hired 76,000 teachers, na tunaona women rep Toto anapeana for the first time TSC letters kwa rally kama mandazi, that has never been seen. That TSC appointment letters were being given at meetings, rallies, ni kama gift to the people who have supported you. So telling us you've hired 76,000 teachers first is a big fail. You should never mention it in a public forum, because
That never happened before.
The
You see?
of children who have increased. 76,000 teachers is 2,000 teachers per county. 2,000 teachers in Nyandarua.
If you compare,
Nyandarua has got how many constituencies?
5.
5 divided by 2,000.
If
Each
it's
has
okay,
got 400.
400.
How many wards do you have?
25.
25. Divide 400 teachers by 25 wards. Hakuna kazi finally.
I have a
people-
question on the teachers topic.
Yes, please.
And it's interesting. Teachers were in State House the other day, and their representatives, I don't know if they were happy with the 76,000. I heard the president say he's going to hire more. But
The ratio of 1 teacher to 35 pupils, students,
I don't think we have any enough ratio in this country for anything, any profession. But my question is, at what point then, or why
have excess auctioneers.
why is it critical for a president to be holding 10,000 or 1,000 teachers in State House?
Many.
There is-
Several and various.
there is what we call stakeholder engagement. Stakeholder engagement is part and actually provided for in our constitution. You need to engage various stakeholders so that when governance is taking place, you have first-hand information. As a head of government, ministers are bringing issues to you. Parliament is bringing issues to you. As the representatives of the people, they cascade, or rather they bring issues through their departments all the way to the presidency. So the presidency, to understand the issues affecting people of Siaya, the issues affecting teachers, the issues affecting border guys, first-hand information. And this is actually a provision of the constitution whereby as a head of government, you are expected to actually relate and engage these people to understand what their needs are.
Okay.
So having teachers coming...
No, I just have a question.
Yes.
Do we need then to do away with TSC, KUPPET, NATS?
There is no problem in that. But having representatives come and have, it's called stakeholder engagement.
Lunch.
You can go as low as possible. Remember, there is a time that I give a good example. Kabogo had an issue when his finance bill was actually suspended by High Court. And the question was that public participation that was done by the county government of Kiambu was not enough. So the question was, that was asked, and I asked that question, and I want my brother also to know, how enough is public participation? So the judge was like, the public participation you did at the constituency levels is never enough.
Yeah.
Go to the ward levels. Another judge will argue, no, go to the villages. Another judge will argue, no, go to the polling stations. So how enough is stakeholder engagement?
So if you make that argument, I would also want to ask, I mean, today morning I just heard that lecturers have issued a notice to strike.
Yes.
Teachers doctors, nurses,
Yes.
clinical officers, all
Yes.
these people keep signing CBAs that
Yes.
have a timeline of, say, 3, 4, 5 years that are
Yes.
to be implemented. And also the main thing that has been in the news has been the issue of capitation, help, So the problems in the education sector, for me, today, I can tell, I'm not even a teacher, but I can tell from what is spoken about out there. What more would the president be wanting without first fixing these issues that are already mainstream, especially like CBAs? 3 years, so you already know.
I didn't get your question.
Why would it be important for a president to have teachers come while he knows the issues in the education sector are already in the public sphere? Why not fix those ones first before you can call teachers?
There are already agreements that have been signed that has a framework of implementation. Those are issues especially touching on their salaries. There are other issues other than salary that may not have been captured by the CBAs that have been signed before. So these issues, they are cross-cutting issues.
Yes.
That could be one of them. And there is no harm in hearing other issues, implementing that. There is a time frame that has been provided, or rather there is a way in which they propose to implement those CBOs or other CBAs. So and maybe there are entities responsible with that. If it is TSC and the budget office, if it is whatever office it is, they are following that. Even if it is lecturers, that is still in place. And the implementation of that may not squarely be in the office of the president. It may be with the minister, maybe with the budget office, or the entities that are responsible for that.
Okay, fair enough.
You see, let's be honest.
But what do you think about them getting paid transport of 10,000?
Nani alisema 10,000?
State House.
It is true.
State House.
The teachers themselves said.
State House.
10,000?
Yeah.
Yes. State
Each?
House.
Yes.
Yes. It was 100 million in a day. State House is simple. State House is a crime scene. Full stop. In fact, if there was a way to send DCI na ile tape wazungushe State House waandike crime scene, that's the first thing they should do. I'll tell you why. These people received catering services.
Yes.
We are yet to see tenders that were floated publicly for people to come and say that we are inviting 10,000 teachers to State House. And in this event, we are inviting catering outfits to come.
But State House has a budget.
No, it was not from State House. Ask them which hotel was supplying food there. They'll
No,
tell
I
you.
want to imagine the budget
It
that's
was
usually
from-
allocated to State House is part of that because it caters for all these guests.
This
What-
food
what
was
happens-
brought by an external supplier.
Yes, that is true.
Now, how was this external supplier pre-qualified? What is the relationship of this external supplier to the powers that be? Go there, go to KICC, look at who is supplying food. What we are trying to say, it's a crime scene because now the public procurement procedures have not been followed.
Okay.
Before he leaves there, before he leaves there, my brother, maybe let me say something, and maybe I have the wrong information. You can also guide me. A government pre-qualifies suppliers, and there is a time. Mostly this happens in May, June, so that now these suppliers and service providers can start providing these services and actually supplying in July when the new year starts. So whenever there is any need for any supply or for any provision of services to whatever entity it is, including State House, whoever that was supposed to supply catering services he's talking about, does it mean that State House was first of all, before the teachers came, supposed to advertise for whoever is to supply food? Maybe this was actually done, and this, because I know these things happen before a financial year starts. So you have a supplier for a whole year.
Are you aware of the conflict of interest, Bila?
It is there, the conflict of interest.
Do you know, now I want to take you deeper. You are my friend now,
Yes.
because we've met here.
Yes.
I just want you to go and understand why State House is happy to host people. It's because there's a nexus between this so-called pre-qualified person supplying food to the teachers and the people who are pre-qualifying them. And that's why, even if you can have 300,000 people coming to State House, there is no loss on the parts of the people who are doing it.
But Fanya Mambo, to be fair,
people who are supplying this food are
but this has happened from Kibaki's time all over.
To be fair, this is not the first president to host
10,000 teachers
okay,
there?
Not Kibaki perhaps.
When
Kibaki
did his
was
hotel?
Kibaki is handing over to Uhuru, for example.
There's a joke they say that when Kibaki became president, the grass became greener in State House because guys were stopped from coming. But with President Uhuru, I was going to say, he also had his suppliers.
That is why I'm saying.
So conflict of interest, we wouldn't pin it on
has been there
President Ruto's government
for some time, and that is what we were calling state capture. Now, campaign walisema watamaliza state capture, but now they've captured the state even deeper and better. And all those delegations that have gone to State House, unfortunately, have been munching our money.
Yes.
Because what you have clearly said, and it is what I wanted to get him into the trap, is to say that, yes, he was trying to tell us that these people had been pre-qualified. What does that tell you? They were pre-qualified because public resources are being used. What has happened? That
always should happen.
Now, that is why, now, if public resources are being used, who
even international delegations require food at State House.
Who authorized that the State House, who said that we are okay with our taxes being fed on 10,000 teachers in State House today? Tomorrow you have 10,000 auctioneers. The other day you bring people from Meru. The other day you bring people from Kiambu. We are saying that our money should have gone to better use than feeding people at State House.
But this my friend, is already approved.
No, let us be fair with one another.
You are representative. Which constituency do you come from?
I told you.
Which constituency do you come from?
You are approving 12 billion for State House, so that you can be hosting people there to eat mandazi.
Which constituency did you come from?
I come from Dagoretti South.
The MP for Dagoretti South approved that question.
Imagine
don't mention MP for Dagoretti South so loudly on TV. People might stone you. TV yake inaweza pigwa na mawe. So don't mention him very loudly.
No, what I wanted to tell you is that your representative approved it.
No, you know that's the same person. He's not a representative, by the way. He represents the president. He came and
was elected by the people.
No, he came and said.
Let's be fair.
He came and said that hakuna maandamano ni Photoshop. When people are being abducted, he went on national TV and said that they were hiding in their girlfriends' houses. So don't talk very sentimentally about such legislators.
But as he's saying, Kenyans have to take responsibility for whoever you elect.
No, let me tell you.
We must take responsibility.
Kenyans voted for him, I hear, in my constituency, because I was not one of them. I didn't vote for that side.
But now
the ones who voted that way, tunaangalianga history ya mtu. He was acting ridiculous. He acted kamoto. Now he's become. We are trying to tell you, State House is using our resources the wrong way. And you're justifying that State House should continue using our resources.
Do you know why I'm saying that?
No. I don't want to know why. All I'm telling you is
it is
Kenyans
approved.
Are hungry. You can't approve things that are not supposed to be approved and tell us because it is approved, it is okay.
It is approved in Parliament.
A law that says we should go kissing monkeys. You can't come and tell me we are kissing monkeys because it is the law. It is the wrong law.
Unfortunately, it is the wrong way. It is the wrong law according to the recipients. But the representatives of the people subjected the same to the public and was approved.
Mama anabeba sukuma kupeleka Marikiti, anaona vile taxes yake inakatwa, alafu anaangalia TV, anaona watu wakikula State House tau. Pesa yake inakuliwa that carelessly.
I have a question, guys.
Telling us to tam. Na ndio maana, by the way, you talked of public. The last one. Okay. He spoke of public participation, that the head of state is trying to get people.
It's called stakeholder engagement.
Stakeholder engagement.
Yeah.
And in stakeholder engagement, you want to get the feedback of the people, right? You want them to tell you how they want this thing to be run and what their input is. Tell me how it is possible, so that you know this is nonsense. Tell me how it is possible that 10,000 people come to State House and all of them are telling you two-term, that they have all of a sudden discovered, in the night, that they can all be two-term protagonists. Let me tell you, if it is true stakeholder engagement, maybe a third of those people should have said they are one term. They don't believe in his presidency. This is not true term. This is not true stakeholder engagement. This is mobilization of people to come to State House, to be bribed with food and our money, and to be sent back home to go and sing two-term.
Aren't those people then the problem?
You see what I said, eh?
No, they are hungry.
You see what I said.
Ndovu haizikwi ina pembe, ngoa pembe zika ndovu leta.
You see what I said, eh?
Wakikuyu usema inakamuliwa ile iko kwa. Unajua joku. Joku is this place you take a cow and then you want to milk. You don't milk the one that is out there grazing. Ile imeingia pale kwa kukamuliwa ndio inakamuli. Saa hii tunajua ile yenye iko kwa joke, hiyo place ya kukamua, hiyo ndio tunakamua. Saa hii
ikimaliza kukamua
tunaingiza the next.
I hear him. You see the things that were discussed, or rather the issues that again, this is what I said about Kenyans, how we like criticizing things, and amongst the things that were discussed by the teachers that day, for example, to be very fair, they discussed quite a number of issues, including the issues that affect them. But look at the Kenyans today. The only thing they discuss about, the only thing they know about, is that the teachers manage 10,000 Kenyan shillings, according to him.
But that is true.
That is what I hear from him. They will never come and tell us what the issues teachers brought. The stakeholder engagement is talking about 2 term, that's what the teachers said. But the issues that were discussed by the teachers on that meeting, on their progress, they will never be discussed. And they will never be shared on the platform, because Kenyans like the negative publicity a lot. And that is a fact I've seen, and it is the truth I've seen about Kenya.
Okay,
we like so much about the negativity.
All the time.
They sell a lot, and I do not know why that we forget about the positive ones.
I have a question in line with that for you. Do you think President Ruto is a nationalist or a self-centered leader, and why?
If he is by the Constitution, he's supposed to be a nationalist, him as a symbol of national unity, and from what you see today, from what engagements you have seen him do by actions, you realize that he's hosting this, he is going there. There is no part of this country that the president does not visit. There is no part of this country that the president does not engage.
Yes.
He engages all people and all communities, and that will tell you that for sure he is a nationalist. Okay. And it will be dangerous and very, very, very unfair to think a nation's president is not a nationalist.
Okay, that's interesting. What is your take?
I'll be guided by appointments. Just need to read the second names of the appointments to some of the most prominent positions, starting with the energy sector. And then your answer is right there. So Kenyans, that's a question I'm not going to answer. All I want you to is going to look at President Ruto's appointments. Look at their second names and look at where they have been seconded to, and look at the positions they hold. Then the answer lies therein. It's not what you say, it's what you do.
You see, full stop. I decided to look into details to what he was talking about the other day, about the appointments. The appointments made by the head of state, that is mostly the PSS. Of course, the PSS are competitively recruited. And when we come to the heads of parastatals, which of course are competitively recruited, but of course maybe some of them are appointed by the head of state, and now the cabinet secretaries. Looking at those appointments, to be very fair, there is a proper representation of the Kenyan nation in that leadership of be they PSS, be they CSS, and be they the head of parastatals. What he's talking about, which, to be very fair, there are those people who existed in government prior to President Ruto's taking over. There are those positions that some individuals held before. So those positions were held before, and I want him now to challenge the appointments done by the head of state in as far as whatever he's supposed to appoint does not represent the national face.
Why do you think people say that there is no national face? What makes people feel like that?
When you have two protagonists, they are pulling from kila mtu side yake. This side will of course go now, and this has happened in Kenya. Let's sit down. Let's blame him on this. So they will go to whatever ministry it is, even individuals that have existed in that ministry for over even 10 years. They will be said they were appointed yesterday by President so-and-so. It also happened in Uhuru's time. They were trying to say these Kikuyu people, appointed in President Uhuru's time. Wanawekwa, the opposition by then was President Ruto. And all those people who are in his campaign team, or those people who are now opposing, they will now list the kind of tribalist Uhuru is. Today, now he is on the seat. The people in opposition are now listing the people. They will go to a ministry, get all the cales, try to say these have been employed by Ruto. And Kenyans will now take that and start circulating on WhatsApp, start circulating on Facebook. And Kenyans will actually see it as gospel truth, unfortunately. And this is why I always blame government communication departments. Government communication departments should always ensure that proper information is with the people. When wrong information is provided, provide the right information so that Kenyans are the know.
Fanya Mambo.
Yes.
In line with what he has said and what the president said, I think it was either yesterday, he's repeated several times that he will not be stopped by the naysayers. Rather, he wants to keep moving and move this country from where we are to where, the Singapore that we want. Are you just being a naysayer from his argument, or are you being objective?
Singapore did not become Singapore by flying all over the world. Actually, if you look at the Chinese president's flying itinerary, he's one of the least traveled presidents. The American president is one of the least traveled presidents. Countries that are doing well don't have their state presidents in the air. They also don't have their presidents on Land Cruiser tops in markets. They have their presidents seated at Harambee House, equivalent in their country, doing work for Kenyans. Kibaki was almost all the time grounded in this country. He was, sometimes even the media used to ask, they used to say the missing president, the disappeared president, because he was working. This is what we are looking for. Sometimes you hear the president has left and he's going around Mount Kenya launching markets. Why do you want the president to launch a markets? Some places they degraded him. They had 10 helicopters coming to launch a classroom worth 600,000. These are the kind of things we are saying are taking this. So Singapore did not become Singapore by having helicopters moving all over the country, launching things that were not making sense, that MCAs would launch, a classroom an ICA can launch. What we want as a country is to start having
How many
a president
projects that were launched that day, the classroom was launched?
Let me tell you, some of them were actually projects that made no sense at all. Absolutely.
So you agree it was not a classroom at all?
He made to launch a classroom and a few markets.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, that is what I call a Chinese market being launched in Kirinyaga. And I'll explain. A market is not a physical place. The president has advisors who need to be fired tomorrow morning. Now, a market is not a physical place. When the Chinese are making their wristwatches or their buttons, they are not concerned on building a physical market. They are concerned on where will our buttons sell. Now, they launch a physical market, and then you clap for them. Only to realize, like ukienda pale Mudhurwa, that market that was built, half of that market, we built a Chinese market in Mudhurwa. Because they are selling their wares there, and our people are celebrating that. Building a market for the head of state is like now when he goes on an international trip, it needs to make sense. Is to come back and tell us China has an insatiable demand for avocado. And we are encouraging our farmers to plant avocado. And then we come up with a way to help our farmers to sell avocado in China. That is a president building market. Building a market is the head of state going and saying, our miraa is no longer doing well. Which country is this that would buy miraa? Who would this be? And going and coming back and say, I have built a market for miraa. I was in Brazil and they will buy our miraa. Now we need more pickups carrying miraa. Building a market is a president leaving this country and going and saying, we've been selling 5 kg of coffee per year. Nimeenda nimeongea na country fulani tumecheza kama sisi, now we need 15 kg. That is a president building a market. But when you come and launch Korogosho market, wewe na MCA hakuna tofauti. The head of state should have been saying, I have come from the Netherlands. They were buying 10 packets of tea. But from now, they'll buy 15 packets of tea. Every other presidential trip we have seen him come from. I was watching the Ethiopia one, and that's why I was bitter. And I asked, so what is in it for Kenyans? It has cost us this much. I wish they came and said, now that we have come from Ethiopia, Ethiopia will trade with us in our favor to this extent. What are we thinking? We are now harboring the idea that we could start importing electricity from them even more. So, and by the way, you're importing electricity in a country where 70% of our people are in the rural homes. He comes from Nyandarua. Every home, even the poor one, has a cow, right? So every home, even the poorest of the poor, could have biogas if we wanted. Then the next question becomes, what does it take to containerize biogas? And the next question becomes, if we are able to containerize biogas and put it in a container, like Sweden is doing today, it is cheaper to containerize biogas than to ship one ship of this butane that we buy. So if we are able to containerize biogas, the next question becomes, what is Sweden doing? All the biogas that is being containerized in Sweden is driving municipal trucks and buses. Sahi gari zote za Kanjo zingekuwa zinatumia biogas. All our Uber drivers and these other guys who are struggling, badala ya electricity na stima would have been using biogas to run their things. It looks so idealistic, but it's true. But it gets even better. When you make biogas out of what you have, even including human waste, kama sasa ya Roa ingekuwa inatengeneza biogas, and it would do very well. Do you know what they are doing with the residue? They are adding purifiers and turning it into fertilizer. Some of the fertilizer we are buying in this country is actually coming from waste plants of human beings in other countries that they have containerized biogas into and turned the rest into fertilizer, which we are now gladly buying. So when you say that Kenya has achieved much, I worry deeply because ile gas ya 300 sasa ingekuwa possible. Hata ingekuwa 100.
Okay.
Biogas is so cheap. Sometimes hata inekangwa tubes zingine zinakaa kama balloon. So let us not entertain conversations that are mediocre, saying that they launched this, they launched this. They launched nothing. A president should take a jet, and by the time they come back and say, mulikuwa na macadamia, nimepata soko ya macadamia. Building a market is that.
Mahesh, why do you think that's a challenge for the president for now?
Which
or
challenge?
maybe if he's doing it in terms of getting external markets for our products. If
Which
he's doing
challenge?
it, getting external markets for our products, like he's saying avocados, macadamia, whatever, exports, export, expanding those markets. And if it's happening, then why are we not seeing it growing to large scale?
I saw that. Of course, it's growing. And we can't say it's not growing. When these kind of markets, for example, he gave a good example of avocados. If I recall, the number of farmers, for example, I'll give an example. I know the Avocado Growers Association. I am a friend of them. The number of avocado growers years back as against the number today, that has grown.
Yes.
That means that the market has actually also grown and given opportunities for business to more Kenyans. What happens, and I told you, the documentation and the popularization of what the government is doing, to me, is a challenge. And the government requires to communicate to Kenyans and tell them the data. I may not have the data because I am not a consumer of that information from government. Whatever a ministry is doing and whatever a department is doing, it needs to be communicated to Kenyans so that Kenyans, in as much as there is this information from so and so, government's position is this and can be backed with facts. That information, in as far as coffee market is concerned, Mira's market is concerned, because you cannot tell me that because Mira has actually been trading for quite some time. If Mira has been trading for quite a number of time, I saw Mira farmers celebrate that they are now actually having more trips to Nairobi than before. What does that one tell you? It tells you that it has drifted or changed from this 5 to this 7. 2 has come up. That means there is more trade for Mira. But now that information, that real data, requires to be communicated in a very simple manner to Kenya so that Kenyans can appreciate. And that's why I said, maybe we have failed, or government has failed to communicate to Kenyans the little it has done or the much it has done. So that my brother here, myself here, will have the correct information backed by data, because if government has done it, it has done.
Yeah.
If it is not there, it is not there. You cannot hide.
You can't hide.
You can't hide. So, and if it is said it is there, kesho, Kenyans are able to confirm ilisemekana na haiko, and so the government will be embarrassed. So the right thing to do, document with evidence, this is what has happened. Because my brother, I believe, for example, the avocado growers you are mentioning, they have increased. I have my friends also, including my own mother, now has a 5-acre plantation of avocado, which she has now planted through the people she has seen also do it and also market. So that means it is growing day by day. Okay. But this information requires to be communicated. Whatever levels, whether they are microeconomics affecting very low kind of farmer subsistence, whatever they are, needs to be told to Kenyans.
All right. We have to bring this conversation to an end. I'll take your closing remarks, so combine them to whatever you want to say from both of you, then we can call it a day for now.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
He mentioned about Mira people celebrating that they have increased their trips to Nairobi. Why do we celebrate mediocrity? Government knows that the biggest market for Mira in Kenya right now is Somalia. Now, why do we have pickups running and killing people coming from Meru to Nairobi while Isiolo International Airport just had a bad airstrip? When we followed the story, we realized that the airstrip, the runaway was done badly.
Yeah.
That's a 2 kilometer of road. You know the standards of construction of a 2 kilometer of road. When we talk of avocado, it is moving from all over the country to find its way to JKI so that it can fly to China. Common sense would have dictated that government would have invested in an airstrip, in the air, the runway for Isiolo, so that instead of pickups killing people around Embu na Kirinyaga na zinachomwa, and one of them almost sometimes had a bad altercation with the presidential motorcade, those things would have been delivered easily to Isiolo. Again, I submit to you that we can lose 15 billion on e-citizen, whereas that 15 billion would have made a huge impact in the Mira industry. I'm telling you, the amount of money that those people send to move their Mira from Meru to JKIA alone is a lot of money. If you can save on the cost of transporting Mira and take it to Isiolo so that it goes to Mogadishu, I'm sure even the planes would be happy if their cargo planes having Isiolo now, because Meru is very productive, and the regions around Nyeri and Murang'a, where most of avocados are coming from, would be happy not to come to Nairobi but to go towards. So even as we seek to decongest this city, one of the things that would happen is that there are so many vehicles that move to the airport that should never have been there anyway. So let us involve ourselves in a process that is called thinking, and let us be happy to be in an environment that is called common sense. And thank you.
All right. Good submission. Mhesh.
Thank you so much. I'm thankful to have been invited here. Maybe what I would want to say as I close, thank you very much, my brother, my sister. My only remark is that I've lived in Kenya. I'm not yet 40. The years that I have lived, and the kind of exposure I have, exposure in as far as leadership is concerned for now, let me call it 22 years. And in the 22 years, since I was actually in campus, have realized that the progress speed of Kenya is quite slow. And as Kenyans, we need things to happen like a lightning, which is good. But to be sure and truth be told, government does not operate like that. That is my own experience for the last 22 years. And so therefore, my call for government, I'm not in government, but my call for government is this. Let Kenyans know what government is doing, so that Kenyans have the right information, so that the peddling of the wrong information is actually countered by the right information. Thank you very much. I hope to be back again.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming through. It's been such an interesting conversation, debate, whatever you call it. And I hope as a Kenyan you picked a thing or two. And we're going to have more of this for sure. We'll have more people come on board so we can look at the issues affecting our country in an objective manner, for that matter. And yeah, as you say, the government needs better communication. That I agree. And I agree also with sentiments from Fanya Mambo on let's use common sense and engage thinking. That's major. I love that. Yeah, thank you for watching. I hope by now you're subscribed. We'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah.